Welcome, everyone. Okay, welcome everyone to the webinar tonight. I'm excited to talk about this. We're going to be talking about how to escape the all or nothing dieting mindset. So thank you for joining me. I'm glad you're here. If you don't know me, I'm Kate from Kate Herner Fitness. I like to help busy women who are looking for fat loss and physique change, and I like to focus on what I call the triple threat lifestyle, which is a combination of nutrition, fitness, and mindset work. And obviously, I find the mindset piece to be super important, if not the most important. That's what we're talking about tonight. So I would expect that you also agree with that because you're here, and we're going to try and work through some mindset stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. Let me just share my screen here. So we're going to start with the basics. What is the all or nothing mindset? So this is the idea, this all or nothing idea, black or white, you know, things we're either 100% in or 100% out when it comes to dieting. We tend to start diets on Mondays, you know, never miss a Monday, as they always say with our exercise. People tend to start their diets on Mondays, and they usually stick to it throughout the weekdays because we have a routine and a schedule that we can stick to, and it helps us kind of keep from eating the things that we've restricted or we've deprived ourselves from. But then we get to Friday, and maybe it's pizza night at your house, or you're just totally drained from a long week and you want to cheat a little bit. So maybe you have a glass of wine or a couple bites of pizza, and that turns into a bottle of wine and half a pizza pie or whatever it may be. You feel awful, you know, you throw in the towel because you hit this what the hell effect. You know, had a few bites and then you figured, I'm just going to go all in and have whatever I want because I already ruined my diet, right? And then, of course, we feel guilty and we feel awful and we start our diet again on Monday. So there are extreme versions of this in yo-yo dieting, where it's also referred to as weight cycling. It's basically this all or nothing dieting cycle to the extreme point where we're losing and gaining a bunch of weight back and forth. Either way, though, the physical and psychological effects of this all or nothing mindset are really detrimental to us. The physical effects, aside from weight fluctuation, and fatigue, we have some major metabolic damage is possible because of our hormones being so off and really messing with our systems from depriving and restricting and then going full on, you know, heavy binges. But also these psychological effects, this mindset game where we're mentally exhausted and we're down on ourselves and we're discouraged all the time, we're drained, and then we think that there's something wrong with our willpower or self-control because we can't stick to these really difficult, impossible diets that we set for ourselves, and it just ends up putting us into a cycle of both physical and psychological bad habits and everything that goes along with it. So I want to talk first about the triggers, because whatever triggers the cycle is what we need to focus on, and I think a lot of us don't necessarily think back that far to what got us in the cycle. We just think about what continues the cycle. It's important to understand how we even get there in the first place. So the control aspect, I think this one's big for me. A lot of us, we want someone to tell us what to do. We want to count, we want to measure, especially if you're a perfectionist like me. Maybe you have strong attention to detail. You want to be able to kind of cut and paste where you need to, right? And like when I used to diet, I used to obsessively count calories. Like I would use my FitnessPal apps to count everything. If I couldn't find a food, I'd look it up on the internet. I wouldn't eat anything before I knew exactly how many calories were in it, which is ridiculous because the calorie counts on labels are always off by huge amounts. But I would pay so much attention to that because I wanted that control and I wanted to stay exactly at a certain calorie point every day. And that's just a ridiculous way to live, and it was miserable, and that control aspect really got to me. Another thing is body image. So I saw the statistic the other day, and it just like totally, I mean, it didn't shock me too much because of how society is. I'm not too surprised, but it just made me really sad. So almost 1/3 of young women would trade at least a year of their lives to have a perfect body. How awful is that? We're willing to cut our lives short just to look a certain way. That kills me. But you know, women's insecurities especially, we tend to be uncomfortable in our own skin. There's very few women I know who are comfortable in their bodies. And to get away from this, we look for change. We look for a new diet. And we're always our worst critic. So we're going to be always finding things that are wrong and trying to fix them with some sort of new diet or trend. And you know, I think it's important to remember with this that there's always going to be someone out there telling you you're too skinny or you're too fat or you're too muscular, and you really just have to learn how to be happy in your own body no matter what you look like, because getting that perfect body is not going to fix any sort of body image issues, but it does definitely trigger dieting. I know when I was a kid, actually, the first thing that ever made me realize that I was supposed to, quote, look a certain way, I was 13 or 14 when I first went on Weight Watchers. I was a chubby middle schooler, not like obese or anything, just a little overweight. And I remember I decided to go on a diet because I was sitting after school, I was sitting on the couch and I was eating, I had my hand in one of those giant goldfish, milk carton looking goldfish containers from Sam's Club. My brother walked in and he said, oh, you're so fat, you're like such a pig, or something like that. And it just like, it made me feel like, oh man, like I didn't even realize I was supposed to look a certain way. I was such a tomboy, I never had even recognized my body or what it was, you know, quotes, like I said, supposed to look like. So that was kind of a moment for me, and not to blame my brother, of course. If it wasn't him, it would have been the media or someone else, but he just kind of made me realize that there's a certain image out there that we're supposed to be looking like, and that kind of happens to young girls now at even younger ages, and it's really tough. So I think we have to learn how to deal with these issues sooner rather than later. And the fear trigger is another thing that it kind of goes along with the body image. It's this fear of being fat, fear of gaining weight. And I think this one is important to recognize, because this kind of tells us that even after we attain that body we want, or we're in that position that we want to be in terms of our health, we might still be in the all or nothing cycle because of the fear that we're going to get away from that physique or whatever it may be. So you might have the body you want, but you're still in the cycle because of that fear. So even if you get there, I mean, we got to learn how to get out of the cycle sooner rather than later, otherwise we'll never get out. Urgency. So who hasn't done this? You have a vacation or a wedding or a reunion that you want to look your best for, so you go on a diet, right? It's like the most common way that diet companies market to people, especially around the holidays or whatever it may be, because it's so easy to convince people that, okay, you have 3 weeks to work with, we're going to give you this specific regimen and you're going to look like a rock star when you finish. It's this urgency, this sense that we need to take extreme action right away to get results really quickly. And then last, food obsession. Food is everywhere. It's almost impossible not to think about it. When's my next meal? What's for dinner? You know, if we think about how often we think about food, it's like you can't not think of a time when there isn't food around. I mean, I have breakfast, I go to work, there's food at work all over the place by the coffee machine, then we have lunch, and then it's catered, and then, you know, you come home, you have dinner, and then you have snacks, and you turn on the TV, and there's food all over, the Food Network. I love the Food Network, but there's food commercials, and there's, you know, everywhere we go, everything, especially in social situations, everything centers around food. So it's almost inevitable that we fall into some sort of dieting cycle or whatever it may be, because we're so obsessed with food that we just need to figure out ways to get it the way we want it to be. And that's what these all or nothing cycles are. So how can we escape? This is the meat of what I want to talk to you about. We don't want to keep living like this. Obviously, this cycle is miserable. If you do get results, they're short-lived. You're constantly depriving yourself, and it's miserable. And the goal is we want to eat effortlessly. We don't want to have to follow these rules or fall victim to these binges, or we want to get out of this cycle and learn how to do it and learn how to eat in a sustainable way that's good for our bodies. So, insight number one, intrinsic motivation is crucial to success. I think that this is one of the very first things that I learned as a personal trainer. When you're getting your certification, they teach you that you want your clients to be intrinsically motivated. That's the goal. That's what's going to make them stick with you. Because intrinsic motivation comes from within. That's what's going to get those long-term results, because intrinsic means you're getting it from your own inherent pleasure. So I'm doing something for my own good because it makes me feel good, because I like it, I enjoy the process, I take pride in it. Versus extrinsic, which is, your doctor says you need to lower your blood pressure, or you need to fit into an old pair of jeans, or you have guilt, or you want to win a competition, you're going on vacation. All these things are kind of short-term external motivators that drive us for a short period, but they always fall at some point. And if you're extrinsically motivated when it comes to eating and dieting, it's not going to last, and your binges are going to be more frequent. So the way I think we can get away from this is by choosing the things that we enjoy. Because when we love the way we eat, eating becomes effortless, and that's the way that we can sustain it. We want to love the way we eat because that's the way that we want to eat forever. If you can't see yourself eating the way you're eating right now forever, then it's not going to last, and eventually you'll go back to old habits. So we shouldn't totally restrict the foods that we love, because that's what leads to this cycle. If you love something, maybe it's wine or ice cream or pizza, don't completely cut it out of your diet or what you eat. If you let yourself have a little bit of it, that satisfaction factor, before you feel deprived, then you won't end up binging. So for example, if during the week I let myself have a glass of wine maybe every other night, or maybe even every night, if I feel like I need it, then when I get to the weekend I won't have 2 bottles of it, because I won't feel deprived. Or if I have a sweet tooth, maybe every day in the afternoon, instead of getting those cravings and letting that binge attitude sort of come on me, I will have a piece of chocolate, a small piece of chocolate in the afternoon every day. And that way I get myself through the week without feeling deprived, and I don't get to the weekend and binge. So these are the kind of things we want to do. We don't want to have cheat meals, and we don't want to have rules and restrictions. We want to just learn what we need, just enough to get us satisfied so that we can get through the week eating mostly healthy, but not feeling like when we hit the weekend we have to go, all out. Insight number 2, improvement comes from learning opportunities. We each have unique triggers for the all or nothing cycle. We went through some of them. There are plenty more. We have to learn those triggers. We're all going to be different, and we all have different insecurities. We all have different ways that we diet, and we all have different trigger situations. So we have to pay attention to those, and we have to change how we look at food. You don't want it to be a punishment, and that's what makes you restrict. You don't want it to be a reward, and that's what those cheat meals or those binges are. But you want it to be nourishment. You want to eat well because you want to be healthy. So when you do have these learning opportunities, these triggers, and then something pushes you into the all or nothing cycle, you don't just want to move on. And I know that we hear that a lot. We hear, okay, you had a bad night, you ate, 5 pieces of cake or 12 donuts or something crazy. And not that crazy, because I've probably done both of those. But you don't want to just move on, right? You want to, I understand wanting to block it out, because you don't want to think about it. It's a little uncomfortable. But the key is that if we relive these experiences, that's when we'll learn, when we go back and think about them. If you just move on and block them out and don't actually think about what happened, how are you going to learn? So the second tool I have is to investigate and get clinical, and then move on. Consider every mistake practice, but relive that episode and think about, okay, what could I have done to prevent this from happening? Because if you don't think that way, then of course it's going to happen again. If you don't realize and think about, okay, what actually caused me to do that? What situation or what, mental thoughts did I have that kind of pushed me into this? If you don't think about that, then of course it's going to happen again. So instead of just moving on, relive that episode and think about what you could have done. So could you have excused yourself to the bathroom when the dessert came at the restaurant, so you could take a breath and reevaluate, okay, am I even hungry? Do I even want that, before you ate the whole thing? Or when you're home alone, before you eat an entire carton of ice cream or drink a whole bottle of wine, maybe turn off the TV, step away from the couch, go for a walk, and call a friend, something to kind of get your mind off it before you fully dive in and you know, end up binging on whatever it was. So if you step back and look at these situations from afar and see what you could have done, then when you're in that situation again, you'll kind of have thought about this already and be prepared with something to do. Because we all know in those moments, it's super hard to think about anything else but what you're about to do. So if it's already in your mind, it's going to save you a lot of effort. And the last insight I have for you is just the goal is progress, not perfection. We're not going to be perfect. We're going to have failures. We're going to slip up. We have to give up on that perfectionism because we're only human. The goal is always just to try your best, and over time, I promise you, it will get easier as you start to learn your body. And learning your body is key. I mean, I can't even tell you, in the last 5 years, when I've really truly started to pay attention to my own body and my cravings and my hunger and how I feel when I eat certain things and what makes me feel better or worse, what makes me feel full or not, all these little things, just paying attention to them, it has made such a huge difference in my life. Like, I'll give you an example. I used to always have the after dinner munchies. I always wanted dessert or something. But now if I make sure I eat protein and a little bit of fat with my dinner, whatever the fat is, if it's cheese or butter, I'm way more satisfied after dinner, and I'm not looking for, you know, that sweet finish, the dessert. And occasionally I'll still have it, but I don't feel like I need it anymore, because I've learned my body enough to know what it wants and what satisfies it. So I think that that's huge. For me, it has been, but it takes time to learn that. It took me a while to understand it, but now that I have, it's made a huge difference in my life. So this last tool is just self-compassion. It's so important. I think we so often talk to ourselves in a way that, oh, sorry, turn off these notifications. We so often talk to ourselves in a way that's just awful, like we're our own worst critic. We have to learn how to silence that inner critic and really, you know, be nice to ourselves. Talk out loud to yourself. I talk out loud to myself all the time. Hearing things out loud, saying them out loud makes us really recognize what we're doing. So if I go over to the pantry and I'm about to grab like a bag of chips or something, if I say to myself, I don't actually need this, I'm not really hungry, hearing it, saying it is one thing, but hearing myself say it makes me really realize that it's true and helps me reiterate, okay, I'm stronger than this, I don't need this, it's about a binge moment, I'm not going to do it, and I put it back. And also distracting myself with other things. So distract yourself with some self-love, have a hot bath or paint your nails. I always make a hot cup of tea before I feel like I'm about to binge on something, because that distracts me enough and puts something else in my stomach to make me realize that I don't need it. So there's all sorts of things that we can do. Again, this is kind of a learning your body thing. It does take time, but if you're nice to yourself, it makes a huge difference. I always tell people to say to yourself what you would say to your best friend. So if your best friend just binged on like a pile of cookies, you wouldn't say, oh, you're gross, like you're fat, you're whatever. You would say, that's all right, you know, everyone does it sometimes. You'll learn from it and you'll do better next time. You don't have to be perfect. You're doing the best you can, you know. And I think we need to talk to ourselves that way. I think it's super important that we don't just criticize, because that will lead us down a bad path. I actually read a study the other day about self-compassion. It was done at LSU or Duke, I forget which. A group of women were all given a donut, and they were told to eat it within 4 minutes. And half the women after that, they all ate the donut, and half the women received messages that were encouraging them, saying, you know, everyone eats unhealthy, don't let it make you feel bad, etc., etc. Only half the women got that message. So then they gave all the women more food again. They gave them a bowl of candy, and they said, eat as much as you want. So they found afterwards that the women who got those messages of encouragement and self-compassion or compassion ate less than half of the other women who didn't receive those messages. So I think, you know, it just goes to show how big words can be, and compassion and taking care of ourselves and you know, silencing that inner critic, how important it really is when it comes down to actual results. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. Just remember those 3 tools: choose to eat things you enjoy, find that intrinsic motivation, investigate and learn from your slip-ups, and practice self-compassion. The goal is progress. Just another thing to reiterate: food is fuel. It's not a reward or a punishment. Our bodies are literally made up of the things that we feed it. So look in the mirror right now. What you're looking at is made from what you're putting in your body. So be nice to yourself. Feed it with good things. It's not just meant to be, you know, to look a certain way. We're actually building the only body that we have. We only get one. So, you know, take care of it and respect it and respect the process. Give yourself time. Every day will get a little bit easier. Don't underestimate what you can do. You're strong. You know, this will take a long time, but you got it in you. I mean, you've been in this diet cycle now probably for a very long time. That's probably why you're here. So, you know, instead of taking the time to try another diet, why don't you take a little bit more time to get to know yourself and your own body, and trial and error, you know, try and figure out what works and find that satisfaction factor, but don't get it to a binge level, but also don't diet, and see what happens. I bet you'll surprise yourself. So thank you everyone for joining me. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email, info@kateherner.com, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.